Hey, this is Scott MacLeod, and what a privilege again to be with XP Media. And I want to talk to you a little bit about the 2012 elections. Now, I'm not an expert, I'm not a politician, but I have a few thoughts. I believe that this next election, obviously, this is not necessarily a prophetic insight, but it's very critical for our nation. We are really at a point in history, in American history, we're hanging in the balance of where we're going to go and whether things are going to collapse or whether things are going to explode for goodness, for the glory of God in our nation. I believe either could happen. I really believe we're hanging in the balance. But I believe 12 is a number of government. And I believe God has a plan for His government being established. And He's so excited about this year. I believe it's going to be one of the best years we've ever had in American history. How about that? I believe that God has people lined up to take office, to take a place. I believe there's going to be forces of darkness dethroned. I believe if the people of God would rally, would pray, would get straight with God, God's going to back us up with leadership from on high. Now watch this. We're not talking about just presidential election. Government is important. They defend the people. They keep law and order. This is essential for any democracy, for any nation. But I'm talking about the government of God that is in the earth. And sometimes it's not always labeled a president in the natural, but there are kings in hiding, in hiddenness, in caves right now that are getting ready to come out. You know, one of the things that David did when he had gone into a season of fear and hiding and running for his life, and he got acquainted with God and wrote some profound songs during those times in the caves. And but there was a city named Keilah, and he looked out and he heard the bad news, just like we get bad news constantly. Well, the Philistines were in the land, and they were raping and pillaging and taking the harvest. There was injustice in the land. Now here you got the homeboys over here singing songs and hiding out. Sounds a little bit like the church right now. And but all of a sudden they get the bad news. Here comes another report. It happened again. Keilah has been ravaged, and the Philistines have come in and taken the harvest. And he inquired of the Lord. He said, Lord, do I, is this any of my business? Do I have something to do with this? Do I have something to say? And God said, yeah. He goes, go up and take on the Philistines. And so after he goes and tells his men, and they're like, are you kidding me? They're like, here in Judah, we're afraid. What would happen if we went out there? And so he goes back to the Lord, inquires again. The Lord says, go ahead, take Keilah. And so he goes forward, and a tremendous victory. They liberate the whole city. They whoop the enemy. They get all the livestock back. They get the plunder of the victory. They liberate an entire city. Well, what was this a picture of? I believe it was a picture. It was the first step of David beginning to act like a king. He saw where there was injustice in the land. He inquired of the Lord. The Lord said, absolutely, that's your battle. Go get him. He did it, and they started to push back the darkness, started to push back the Philistine forces. I believe there is government in hiding right now, all through America. I believe God is beginning to position them. I believe they're beginning to inquire of the Lord in the marketplaces, in business, and entertainment, and the movies. They're inquiring of the Lord. Lord, should I go up against that? Should I take down those giants? And I believe that those who have been acquainted with the Lord in hiddenness, in obscurity, sometimes out of pain and poverty even, God is saying, now you're ready. Now you know me. Now you're listening to my voice. And there's going to be a counter opinion that's going to pop up. Are you kidding? Here in Judah, here in the church, we're afraid. And you know what? I believe that there's people that are going to have such tenacity to follow the voice of the Lord. They're going to squelch that voice, all the negative voices, and say, we will go forth. We're going to establish justice in our land. And I believe there's people entering into politics right now who really don't give a rip of what people say. And that seems crazy in a land that's run by polls and opinions and popularity. But I believe there's people that are so tight with God, so one with God, that they're waiting to hear the voice of God and to go forth. And in 2012, there's going to be such a massive manifestation of goodness and righteousness, I believe, coming forth. And you know who you are. I believe I'm talking to people right now that you've been in hiding, you've been waiting for the time, and there's a bit of a pressure cooker you're in. You're like, man, I'm getting kind of miserable in this hidden place. I want to get out there and do great exploits because I know my God, and those who know their God will go forth and do great exploits. So I believe that literally this next election in the natural, first in the natural, but also in the spirit, is going to be the greatest explosion of righteous government we've seen in decades in America.